Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to Rise Up After Dark. So glad you're here. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, and we are here with our friend Chuck Blackstock to have a conversation about his project, Farcade, as well as the very exciting intersection of Web3, gaming, social media, and AI, all the buzzwords in one conversation, but tonight there's some actual substance. Now, I have to run because I've got to go play a silly internet game, but I will be back. And before I go, let me simply explain the rules to you. Chuck, we're so glad you're here. The audience is probably going to have a couple questions for you, but we'll have some questions of our own first. I know you want to walk us through how we can use Farcade to get a game off the ground, up and running, but you need to know a few things about Rise Up After Dark. This is the show where we let our hair down. It's not as tight as the morning show, so if you've got something to drink, feel free to kick it back. If you're not a drinker, then just let your thoughts be as wild as my hair. And if you hear this sound at any point in time during the conversation, that means whoever is speaking or whoever I decide should get one has a point. And if you hear this sound, it means they've lost a point. And at the end of the night, the person with the most and the least will win a fabulous prize. Or at least some canned applause.
Very important question, though. If you are leaving us to go and play a silly internet game, where did the dings and the gwomps come from?
You are just gonna every now and then hear
I got it.
a random chaotic ding.
I got the dings. I don't know if you guys can see this. This is
old
Hector
Breaking
bobblehead.
Bad.
That's
Yeah,
what you
Hector.
Oh, I officially that's perfect. There will be no gwumps until I return. And Chuck, I officially nominate you the dinger. So, ladies and gentlemen, please excuse me. Alex, you wanna tell folks a little about how we met our friend here, and then give him an introduction?
Absolutely.
God bless you both. All
right,
three of you, really.
Thanks.
So, Chuck, I am super stoked that you're here. And if you will allow me to just be a tiny bit selfish for just a second, to say that I've been a fan of you for a minute. I think the first time that I encountered you was through Sam and Simplified/Gamified, and started following you both on Twitter and also over on Warpcast, and was just a big fan of the way that you approach the space and your voice in it and all this kind of stuff, constantly looking for people who make it a better place instead of a more grifty place. And unfortunately, there's not as many of us as I wish that there were. So became a fan. And then when you reached out to say that you were a fan, I was very excited, because that's the single coolest, like, just moment ever, when someone that you are a fan of discovers your content at the same time, and then the marriage is formed. And so I'm very excited to have you here. I'm extremely excited to talk about Farcade, because it's one of the coolest projects I'm aware of. And as I have told you several times, and she's aware, it's also my wife's favorite project, including all of the things that I've ever worked on. So there's the high praise. And I've been describing it to people who ask as the TikTok equivalent for mobile gaming, wherein there's a feed, we're encountering fast-paced games in a scrollable fashion. And if you're not a big fan of the thing that you stumble on, swipe to the next one and play something else. And I know there's a ton more to it, so I would love to hear you describe it in your own words, assuming that I started to do you justice there.
No, but thanks a lot for the praise in the background. It does mean a lot. I think, Sam was someone who really got me to start finding my voice in the space. I feel like I was very much in the shadows as a builder. I had a lot of opinions. I was pretty afraid to voice those opinions. I know crypto Twitter is a tough place, and honestly, just when you're first starting your content creation career, I think you aren't used to putting yourself out there. You're very afraid of everybody's thoughts. You're very afraid of your opinions being wrong or stupid. And so over the last couple of years, I've really been working on that, and Sam really helped me. So it's awesome that it resonated with somebody, because I think that's all I was hoping for, was to find more like-minded people like me that weren't just into crypto for trading and pumped up funds and memes. Like, there's a lot of amazing tech and cool people here that are building some amazing things. And unfortunately, they're not on the front page of crypto Twitter all the time, so they get overlooked. But that really means a lot, and I'm definitely excited to talk about the Farcade. And I think you're the way you describe it's really how we describe it, which is the TikTok for creating it. It's I think the nuance when we say it is like the TikTok for creating and playing games. Because the playing games is only really half the side of TikTok. Same with TikTok, half of the side is just watching the content. The other half is the user generated side. And with AI, on the trajectory that it's on, I think we're getting to this place where we're going to be making video games as fast as we're creating videos or content or memes. And that's something that I find incredibly exciting. I think it's going to be a huge unlock for creatives and people like you and this show, like when you're going to be able to create games alongside your content and your IP and your brands. And I think it's going to be just a whole new world for us to be exploring the next couple of years.
Will, I don't know if it's Evan's fault or if it's your fault, Will, but
it was my fault.
It's
I
your
had
fault.
muted myself.
There it
So
is.
I was just a talking head for a little bit. But no, yeah, if somebody like me can actually like make something for like our brand or company, someone who for a coding brain, smooth. Water in code bounces and just slides off like a waterfall, right? I don't have the brain for it. So if I can make a game and then include it into my business or just like have fun with it, just making something cool, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, making games is a lot more fun than people think it is. And I think there's something about watching AI write code that we're in this point in time where like it does feel like magic. Like it is so crazy to watch it happen. It's so amazing to watch your ideas come to life. And I think it's something that people are really enjoying. And we just opened up AI Game Studio for our first beta cohort of users. And there's no real incentive other than points and some other stuff in our ecosystem. But when we were talking about launching it, we're like, should we put like a $10,000 prize pool down? Should we do some other incentive to get people to come here? And we're like, no, let's just do something small. Let's just see if anyone's actually interested, absent any monetary incentive. And we've had like I think we sent out like 4,000 invites, and we've had over 400 people building games. We've had over 60 games submitted in the first 3 days. And most of them have never coded or built a game before. So it's really insane. And this stuff is like only going to get better and cooler. So happy to dive into that, and we can go down that rabbit hole. But it's really, really exciting time.
Yeah, I always think about, I have a friend of mine that I've worked with in the past on some AI related stuff who's just a massive AI nerd to the point where he's been building his own diffusion engines like in his bedroom for a while and started a lot with image generation kind of around at the beginning of the time when Midjourney was starting to become popular.
Yeah.
And, so I got to watch him build basically the whole back end of that, where we created the data set that it was going to query, and we trained the thing to make images. And the prompting process was way longer. Now you type something to Midjourney, it spits it out. This was like, okay, we have to go Google 10,000 pictures that we want to put into this thing and train it on and have it scraping all that.
Yeah.
And I just remember him at the time, this is probably like 4-ish years ago. I remember him at the time telling me, dude, give it 5 to 10 years and you're going to be writing a single sentence prompt to build a video game or generate a Pixar quality movie that is 2+ hours long, and someone who watches it is not going to know the difference.
Yeah.
And
here we are.
And I've just been watching that come true. And so I know you told me a little bit about kind of the level at which your model is generating games at this point. Can you kind of talk about like how involved do you have to get from the prompting side, and like how much of a knowledge base or a skill set do you feel like someone has to have before they come into it to like prompt properly?
It's a really good question. So I think if you're just going to Grok or ChatGPT, you have to know a lot more knowledge. With the Farcade Studio, we do a lot of stuff that helps like massage what you're asking for and give it this a little bit of vocabulary. So like a really good example is like if you wanted to build Tetris, for example, and you're a non-coder, you're just saying like, hey, I want to build a Tetris game. Like, what does that look like? You're going to get dramatically different results if you just know a couple of things about software to be like, oh, can you use this library or this thing in code or use these types of frameworks to build it? You're going to get potentially a perfect working Tetris game on one text prompt versus something that kind of doesn't work. It's built in a weird language. It's going to be really hard to deploy and test. Because that's where like a lot of the Farcade comes in. It's not that we've got overboard on like training these models and fine tuning these models. We're by no means this like, we're not trying to like LARP as like these AI LLM experts. We just use the best models and we massage user prompts to make them a lot better. We just say, this person wants to build this game, and then we take that and we say, here's the prompt. Here's how we like enhance the prompt to make it better. Use these libraries. This is how it fits within our framework. And so they get a much better response from the AI when they do that. So a lot of it is just hand holding in a lot of ways. So just really trying to massage what we think is, the layman's like interpretation of what they want into like more computer speak and libraries of like things that we think are going to be a much better output.
So it's basically what I'm hearing is the barrier to entry to creating something from scratch here is significantly lower than if you were to try to, because I know my dad has talked about that a little bit, just, for someone like him, coding using ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity is amazing.
Yeah.
But the way that he's writing prompts is obviously the way that an engineer would write a prompt if it was like telling a junior engineer to do something for them. So that's not really the case here.
No, it's to us, like I think we want anyone to be able to make these games. We want them to come out as quick as possible. So we're implementing a lot of stuff in the studio for things like one of the features we have is called remixes, where you can actually take an existing game, give it a single AI prompt, and spit out an entirely new version of that game. And one of the games that's an example of that in the Farcade is we have this game called Tower Blocks, which is just a simple stacking blocks game. And then I remixed it with a single prompt that was, I want a nightmare version of this game that the blocks are really small and move twice as fast and give it a scary theme. And with that single prompt, I have an entirely new game called Nightmare Blocks, where the blocks are half as small. It kind of has this like smoke effect to it, and it's way, way faster and harder. And so there's this really cool, I think, effect that's going to happen where a lot of creators and gamers can actually start creating remixes and like this infinite canvas of games. And that's why I think like a TikTok style feed is really going to come into play. But I think to your point again with like how easy is this, right now is the hardest it will ever be. And it's still very, very simple. Like it's like only getting better, but like in 6 months, I'm not even convinced you need to speak English or say coherent sentences, and the AI is still going to figure it out. Like it's still going to know what you want. So it's going to get insane just over the next 6 to 12 months. So, that's, I think, always the thing when I see people and they're trying it out, and if they have frustrations or problems, I'm just like, look, this is by far the worst it will ever be.
Yep. And so 2 questions. The types of games that are being made, in my head, they're like mobile games, essentially. Or would you put it on like a timeline of like SNES at like the Super Nintendo Entertainment System all the way up to like modern day console? Like where on that scale are you currently, or is Farcade currently, with like the types of games being made? And we can throw in like Game Boy and all the other handhelds too.
Yeah, I mean, I think as of like where the Farcade is going to be, I think we're in like the Atari stages, quite frankly. Like I think we're like that early in the space, because a lot of this stuff really wasn't possible just 6 months ago or 7 months ago. Like the code generation was really much more of it's really small. Like you can only really use really small context, really small pieces of code, and it was really hard to update that code. It was a lot of like pretty manual process where it could kind of figure out ways to improve or fix bugs or write stuff, but it was really, really bad. And then just over enough time over the last year, really about like October, November, it just got to the point where it actually could start writing files and doing all these updates. And really when like Cursor came out, things started changing quite a bit. And now you're able to write like entire games or entire files or entire apps like from these single prompts. And so like this stuff is all just so new. So I think for the Farcade, like all of our games a lot of them are just 2D, really basic arcade games that really mimic a lot of stuff that we've seen that are successful, like 2048. We have like a Geo Crush, which is like a Candy Crush Match 3 clone. We have stuff that are Tetris. We have like a Tetris clone. And so we have stuff that's really reminiscent of like nostalgic games that were really fun. And I think that we're trying to like kind of like speed run. We're like trying to like speed run like the arcade of the 80s and like get us all the way back to like the modern day consoles. And so I'd say we're like very early stages, but like you guys were talking about, which is you're gonna start being able to do AI prompts that are these like full 3D games like very soon, and you'll be able to do levels and character generation, all that stuff. And so we're still in the very early stages, so we're on like the 2D arcade phase, but I think in the next 6 months we're going to see a lot more 3D, more in-depth style games.
Well, I'm pumped to be able to just go to an AI prompt and be like, Banjo Kazooie, please. And just
I
like,
know.
yeah.
Oh man, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I have a tiny, I would say, sliver of understanding of kind of the intricacy of game development. For those who aren't aware, I started down that path where we conceptualized the whole thing. Mac and I built it out of like cardboard and little crystals, and we're playing on the tabletop and wrote the whole rule set, and I had a whole bunch of character design. Like, we have quite a bit of stuff, and it was in the process of becoming like a playable little demo that people could go screw around with when the the exchange partner who was helping me with funding.
Which exchange? Well,
Yeah.
which
You know who
one?
you are. Anyway, they I mean, it was I talk shit about them all the time. It was Mech C. And
There it is.
And they basically just decided to, which honestly was not super out of character for them. They were like, okay, token now. And I'm like, dude, I don't even have an alpha yet. What do you mean token now? And they're like, it'll help us raise money for the rest of the game. I'm like, I'm so not interested. And they're like, well, let me just get that grant back real quick. And it's kind of just become dead in the water. So, but we got to the point where I was beginning to see the complexity of like, even just doing something so simple as placing the joystick on the screen and being able to have like the circle of like, sensitivity radius to like where people are going to be able to do it. And then, like accidentally touching your thumb to a slightly different piece on that corner, you want the joystick to jump over there. And I just remember that one little piece like sticking out in my head is like, okay, this is becoming a real pain in the ass. I'm trying to imagine like how much work the computer has to do on the back end to intake like a simple prompt and then build something that has a character menu that you can click through and like, pick somebody or, choose a player that you're going to play with, or, edit their loadout or something like that, put them into the game, and then still have all those like on-screen touch controls because you're playing on a mobile device and they're all touch screens. So obviously you've got like different pieces of the screen. Like there's just so much stuff. And of course my mind knows just enough to be dangerous, but still be dumb. And I'm just like, this seems incredible. Like so much had to have gone into making this. So I'm excited to get into like, working on it, but how, I guess, because you have obviously a much deeper understanding than I do. What was that like to like put all of that together? Because I'm having trouble like even just imagining how intricate it is.
Like, is your question like how?
Yeah,
like,
like
it was like putting the studio together, and like,
it was a lot of words. Yeah, just like being able to build it so that like you said, the AI is going to be able to intuit and figure out what someone means when they give a relatively light prompt, even though that person may want a character menu and an inventory screen and all these different like controls that they're going to want in there.
Yeah, I mean, so I think like for us, like we really lean on the innovations of like AI and LLMs and these models. And so like it seems like every couple months there's like this new crazy model that comes out that's way better at writing code and interpreting code and it's been trained on trillions of data points and all this stuff. And so we're not doing that. We basically just say, okay, here's the Grok 3 model that's now the best code generation model in the world. And then that's what we take into our AI game studio. And we basically give that model a playground of things that it should care about. So like we train that model to only care about creating arcade games, only to use certain frameworks and libraries. And so then, Alex, when you're saying I need like one of our games is called Geo Wars, which has like 2 little joysticks on the bottom. That was like I was trying to figure out. I honestly like was trying to figure out how to write that code, and I kind of just like was thinking, okay, I think I would do this, and then I just prompted the AI to write joysticks because I wasn't sure I was gonna be able to do it. So I thought I was gonna have to write it, and I prompted it, and it figured it out, and it did it in about 10% of the code I thought I was gonna have to do it in. And so I think there was this like other weird realization that like humans are really bad at writing code. Computers are much better at writing code. And so like there's this, it's kind of dystopic watching it write code because you're like kind of realizing it's
and you're like,
better at writing it.
I am witnessing my own obsolescence.
Yeah, no, it's very bittersweet as someone who's been coding for 10 years, building up the skill set to watch it get eaten away. But it's just the way it's going. And I'm more excited by the productivity unlock than I am losing the skill set.
I know I've heard my dad describe it as, like, you might think you're a really good programmer, but at the end of the day, it's not your native language, whereas it is the computer's native language. And so it shouldn't be as weird as it is that the computer is just way better than you at doing computer things. And we've just been trying to crack that code, pun intended, on how to speak to them more effectively.
Yeah, it's really interesting because most modern day languages, they just exist as a way for humans to write code and more effectively and more efficiently. But like, I just don't know how long a lot of these languages will even exist anymore, because it'll all just be about how quickly can I translate my voice or my thoughts into an idea that an AI is actually going to go right. And so you kind of don't need these like really advanced languages anymore. Well, the internet's built on a lot of them, so it's going to be really hard for them to be removed that quickly. But I think there'll be like a really interesting development from like a very technical standpoint is kind of the evaporation of these like modern day languages, because they're all really slow and unperformant when it comes to actually writing computer code, because they're meant for humans to be able to read and write. But you don't have that barrier anymore.
So I would like if you guys are feeling well met on that, I'm super excited to kind of see how this is going to go. So I know you talked a little bit about kind of where it's at right now and what we can expect. So I think it would be sweet, and you alluded to let's spin something up and see if we can get something going here.
Yeah, let's try it. Let's do it. Can I present my screen on this? Is that the best way to do it? Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
if you throw it up, I'll toss it on the big screen.
Okay.
And then I will share it on the Tiki-Talkie.
All right. So one of the things that we can kind of start to think about here is, like Chuck was saying, we're looking like more arcade style. So if we think about, like classic arcade games that maybe you've played in the past, and you mentioned a couple that have been sort of like, reskinned or redone already on the platform. I think you told me, was it your sister that you had it was the Candy Crush kind of recreation?
So I can show like that game real quick. And I'll just show some of the. This is going to look weird because it's on a desktop and it's meant for phone. So ignore that it looks a little funny. But let me see if I just zoom in a little bit, make this bigger. Cool. So are you guys able to see this? Is this working?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
You are good.
So a little background, because I love telling this story, which is, when I come to the Farcade, here's my home screen. I can actually start scrolling through all the games like a TikTok style feed. Since we're on TikTok, I think this is a great time.
Cool. It's literally just game to game to game and swipe and swipe.
Yep. And a lot of this spawned because I doom scroll TikTok and I see those stupid fucking games that. Can I cuss on this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sweet.
It's after dark, Chuck. Let your hair down.
Fuck yeah. All right. So a lot of this happens because I'd see these games and I know they're stupid, but I just want to try them once, because they give you the little video of the guy running on the thing and they intentionally do something stupid. And it's this like really great marketing hack to get you to like want to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always wanted to be able to just play the game, but I know I don't want to go download an app to play the game. I know it's not going to be that fun, but I would love to try it once or twice. And so like that really was like the genesis for a lot of this stuff, is like, it felt like a TikTok feed could actually be like one of the best ways to discover and play hyper casual mobile games. And so, we have games like Hyperheat's one of our popular ones. Let's see if, so this is like Hyperheat. All these games, again, have been built in our AI studio, 100% prompts, no coding. Anyone can do this. You guys could do this. And so this is just a fun game where you drag around a ship. I'll just die real quick. We have like these built-in integrations, so you can immediately share it on all of your social media apps. But I want to go back to GeoCrush, because GeoCrush is one of the things that really spawned a lot of the future and the vision for the Farcade and how we got here, which was over the holidays, my brother and I were home and we had just launched the Farcade and we only had 2 or 3 games, and we were hanging out with my sister, who turned out was a huge Candy Crush fiend. She absolutely loves Candy Crush and like plays it nonstop. And so we showed her the Farcade and we're like, would you play in the Farcade? And she basically was like, do you guys have a Candy Crush clone? And or do you guys have a Candy Crush game? And we're like, no, we don't, but we think AI would actually be really good at making that. So we sat down with her, and over the next 4.5 hours, we just kind of held her hand and showed her how to prompt the AI. She built this game. And this
So
game is
cool.
this game is the most popular game on the Farcade. You can collect lightning bolts, you get surges to reset the board, all the sound effects, all the animations. She did in about 4.5 hours. And then the very cool part is, and like kind of like the future of the Farcade is, when we see how easy it is to make games, that's still just only step one of the problem, which is like is this question after you get done, which is, what do you do next? Like, how do I get anyone to play this game? And so, a cool part is she was able to launch this game in the Farcade to our hundreds of thousands of users. And so, within the first hour, the game had been played over 10,000 times by thousands of people.
Damn.
And so, yeah, from literally idea, us sitting down at lunch, eating cinnamon rolls, talking about what we wanted for Christmas, because we're all still apparently 12 years old when we go back to my parents' house. I want a Lego set still, and so I actually got a Millennium Falcon Lego set for Christmas. It was pretty sweet.
hell yeah.
It was a good Christmas, and so but basically from like lunchtime to like dinner, she went from never coding a game to having a game that had been played tens of thousands of times. And so that really was like one of the coolest moments of my career. Like, I thought it was one of the coolest things I'd ever done. And now she checks the Farcade every day, and she like messages people. She's like, I have fans. And so it's really cool.
I have fans. I'm a star.
Yeah. And so she like loves it. So this is GeoCrush. This is one of the games that was made.
Sweet.
So I just wanted to show that, and we can actually go back to the studio now.
So
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
curious,
just-
as someone who's never been in a game developer, a mindset project, or anything like that, in those 4 to 5 hours, what's the general rundown of steps to go through using the AI to make this Candy Crush copycat, essentially?
Yeah, so it really depends on how you want to go about the problem, and that's
now
where
I can get your face on TikTok.
Oh,
No, I got you. I was just saying, now I can put your
okay.
face on TikTok because I have my screen turned
Okay.
around, so everyone.
Oh, no, you're good. So it's tough because like there's no right way to do it. It really just depends on like how you want to. It kind of like you want to lean into your strengths of like how you break down problems, and I think like one trick we've learned that works really well, and something we try to help you do with the Farcade Studio, is to actually do like multi-step prompting. And so like a really good way to do this is basically like, I want to create like your first prompt should be something like, hey, help me create a plan that I can use to help build a Candy Crush style game for mobile.
Like, give me a blueprint.
Yeah, and then AI is really good at creating like a blueprint. Then you literally just like copy and paste that blueprint back to itself and say, now use this plan and let's break this down and go step by step creating the game. And it's insane. Like, it literally just go like, here's the first step and here's the second step. And a lot of times, sometimes it doesn't work and you have to go back to the start and or redo throughout a step and start over because it's AI and it's random.
Sure.
But it just gets better and better at these things. And so, games like, GeoCrush, let's see if I can open this one. So this is a pretty cool game where this actually had like, it's hard to play on mobile, but this like has the joysticks like you're talking about, Alex. Like these little joysticks where you're trying to like aim stuff around. Like this stuff it's hard to describe just how hard that is to build, where you make like a little circle that like is draggable and it reflects in a character. Like that stuff.
Right.
That stuff, even if you've been coding for a while, takes a long time. But the idea that like someone who's never created written code before, like how long it would take them just to learn how to write code and then to do that is months, if not years of time. And you just get it in a single prompt, which is pretty wild.
And like you said, there's so many different pieces of this whole thing. Because my frame of reference for this is, again, my father, who I just know is a brilliant software engineer, has been doing this for as long as there have been software engineers. And when he started to get into the game dev world, I just remember him telling me like, okay, I'm doing some experimenting. And my dumbass is sitting here thinking, this dude's going to have the next Call of Duty in a week. And like 2 weeks later, he's like super stoked and he's like having a lot of fun. And my mom was saying he's been up there like tinkering around with it, and he's like, my character walks from side to side now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and that was like, oh god, okay, this is so much bigger than like, and which really helps put it in perspective when you hear someone on Twitter like, you know, telling you before any of this AI stuff, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna create the next big mobile game, like, right, all the NFT founders who are gonna create the next biggest, baddest AAA game ever. You know,
An
like
entire metaverse and
yeah. And I think it's important to digest like the AI stuff like in phases, and like
Sure.
right now AI is not going to spin up like a metaverse, you know, but it can spin up a Tetris, or it can spin up a Pong game, or like the games that I showed you, like a GeoCrush and all this stuff. And but it will spit out like a metaverse, and it will, because the crazy part is it will like learn on its own, like as you're building the game. So like these games will be built on the fly, and I think there's a lot of debate there on like whether that's going to be a good game or not. I think, like, you know, a Skyrim where like everything's an infinite canvas and like anything can happen at any moment is like,
right,
there's a compelling argument where like now there's no shared experience among gamers. Like they can't really talk about like, oh, remember when this thing happened, because it's like none of us had the same game together. So I think there's a lot of debate on how to make it a good game. But the point being is individuals will be able to make a Skyrim without coding by themselves. No problem. Like,
well, and
very easily.
I remember you and I talked a little bit in Denver. And one of the things I had asked you was about multiplayer integration here. And obviously that's a huge component of the intricacy of setting up a game is the use of a server and being able to connect to someone who is going to then see the same game state that you're seeing at the same time. And so obviously like that's a major component, something that we're not looking at right now. These are, you know, single player in front of you, but again, something you could visualize, I'm sure, is the ability to integrate to a server.
Yeah, and we're working with a good partner that is going to streamline that a lot for us. And so that's probably going to be coming sooner rather than later, because we have a lot of people who want to do, you know, party games, like maybe 3 to 5 people. And those are really fun. And I think it's a lot of things that we think about with the Farcade is we really believe we're sitting at this like intersection of gaming and social, and then on-chain and AI are like the tools to facilitate that intersection. Like we just think of those things as really complementary ways to build out a really social gaming experience. And so so I like the multiplayer is just really important, but it is like very technically complex. And so something that we want to provide is like this like tool where it's like when you're going in to create a game, it's like, is this multiplayer or is it single player? And if it's multiplayer, we can give you all the tools to basically like have lobbies and get players and share player state, but it is just a lot more complex, but hopefully something that isn't more complex for the builder. That's something that we handle.
Nope.
Did I lose you guys?
Oh, wait.
I think
I'm back.
Alex?
I think
Okay.
we're good.
Okay,
Sorry.
cool.
That was me.
No, you're good. My internet's been a little flaky too, so I'm glad it wasn't me.
No, I just rugged us all for a quick second, but
well, are we looking at here then? I'm assuming the AI prompt to start building something.
Yeah, so this is just like we can name a game. So I'm curious. Yeah, we can. So I think like you know, Infinite Runners are fun games. Things like Flappy Bird are fun to build because you can kind of see it change before your eyes, and I know AIs are pretty good at building it. So we can do something like that if you guys want to build something like that.
Yeah, I was trying to think. So we've got a couple comments about just, you know, things that popped into your head when you first think about stuff. When I first hear arcade game, the first one that I think of is like Duck Hunter.
For me, it's Galaga.
Galaga, yeah.
I heard.
Yeah, so we could do. I think like Space
Defender.
Invaders or Galaga are good.
I'm not familiar with Doug, but that was one that was tossed in. Defender, I've heard of but haven't played. And then Chuck, I think like when I was trying to suggest other things that I had played that might be like simpler and work were like Two Dots, you know, like the Connect 4 kind of stuff. And then obviously the last one that you showed with the little, you know, like a bunch of kind of enemies coming at you from the outside and a little thing in the middle that can like move and shoot. Yeah, something like that would be sweet. But
okay, let's do Space Invaders. We'll be able to make a couple of these honestly because it's not crazy.
Okay, sweet.
All right, so this is the basic flow for us right now, which is when we launched this, we just really wanted to get it out. Our chat interface is like still in beta, but we basically are working on allowing anyone to build games in other places. And so we have third-party integrations with like Grok or Chat or Replit. So you can basically use these other parties to build it, and then just use the Farcade as the distribution platform. Or if you're an engineer, you can use things like Cursor, which is like a development tool. But we'll do a third party. We'll use Grok for this one. So here's like the way you get started is we can actually just create a really simple prompt, which is I want. So I'm just gonna say I want to create a simple Space Invaders game. Sorry, I probably need to zoom that a little bit. And so what we're gonna do for you is we're gonna take that prompt. This is where we enhance it to give you a lot of stuff. In our own chat interface, yeah, enhance.
enhance. Yeah.
So it's cool. Like this is a lot of us making up for the fact that like our chat isn't live yet, but like in our chat, I could say this same thing, and we'll just do all this behind the scenes, and then actually update the code for you here. But the way this works currently, just for our first beta testers, is we have you do it here, then we actually go over to Grok to actually do it. So I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to head over to Grok. Let me see if I share this tab instead. So can you guys see Grok now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to paste this new thing, which basically we give it all the requirements of like things that we care about, things we know that'll be fun. And it's going to start writing the code. And so it's writing all the code right now.
And so for context to the thing that Chuck just did, which I do all the time, and even if we're not talking about prompting something for a game on Farcade, like if I'm trying to do anything with AI and I just want to save myself time, and because the whole mission, right, is to become more and more efficient, I'll just say, hey, I'm trying to do this, like write me a prompt to help you do this for me better, because nothing is better than prompting the AI than the AI. So starting like this, it's just another huge barrier to entry removal, because you like you said, you basically just need like a single bumper sticker description of the thing you're trying to do.
Yeah, cool. So if you guys can see
now
this,
we have a game.
Now we have a game. Yeah, now we have a game. It was fast. So it doesn't look like I can do a lot. So it looks like there's some bugs, which is totally fine. But like we got pretty far pretty quickly. Yeah, enhance. And so we can do. So now we can start doing stuff. Like I'm trying to click on it. I'm trying to move. Doesn't look like we have controls.
Can we just pause for 2 seconds and recognize the fact that you just started with a single sentence? I want to make a simple Space Invaders game. It's been less than 60 seconds. And there's currently gameplay, like buggy, like you said, but there is gameplay on the screen. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's saying it wants me to drag my finger. So I'm playing on my computer, so I can't do that. So because a lot of in our prompts, since we're mobile gaming, we give it, you can actually go back and look and see, like we enhance it. Enhance. I'm gonna say that every time now. We tell it like the things that are specific. Like there's little things like this line right here. Like doing an HTML canvas game isn't always something that like when you go and just talk to OpenAI or talk to someone to build a game, it's not going to like know to do some of these things or use like certain physics engines or things like that. So that's where like a lot of the magic comes in from the Farcade studio, is being able to streamline what you're asking for and give you, ask for the right tools from the AI. So let's say, so yeah, I want to be able to use desktop controls so I can test this. So say, please add desktop controls.
And I assume it's kind of like this, there's not going to be a lot of difference for people who are used to prompting GPT to do other basic stuff, just kind of this conversational nature.
No, it seems
like
exactly like how you would talk with ChatGPT so far.
Yeah. So yeah, there's nothing that I think like a lot of me doing this is just trying to prove to people they can do it. Like, because I don't think people really believe me when I say that I said this I was at ETH Denver and I was giving a lightning talk in front of a lot of people in front of Coinbase and the base team. And I was giving my talk, and my talk was all about how every single person in that room is a senior engineer and a world-class game developer. Like you just are.
Yeah.
World-class might be a little bit of a stretch this second, but it won't be in 3 or 4 months. Like it's just really crazy how good this is, and like how long it would take to understand anything that's happening in all of this. I think most people see this and I think your mind almost turns off. It's like, what the fuck is this? And rightfully so. This would take a long time to learn and understand what's going on, but you just don't need to anymore. And like, I just hit preview. Now I should have controls, hopefully. Oh, yep. So now I have controls. I can start shooting. I think yeah. So now I'm shooting. Looks
Dude.
like still a little couple bugs I need to figure out. It's cool. It's even got little like death animations on all the creatures. See if I kill them. So you can kind of see like little exploding. Like I didn't even code that, and it's like kind of taking liberty to make the game even cooler.
Right. This
So
is wild.
yeah. So again, I think this stuff is like I love doing this because I love just proving to people like this is how crazy it's getting. You know, it's just so wild.
Yeah, it's like you said, I feel like my mind is just kind of like mushified because I'm just like, all right. And this is me having had multiple conversations with you at this point about this thing.
Yeah, so let me. So I'll kind of take us like the next step of like what the Farcade's doing and why this is cool. So yeah, I can end up going back and forth with this. It's a fun thing about AI coding actually too is it's a really easy thing to do, like as almost like a passive form of engagement because it takes a minute or two for these things to write the code. So I can literally say, give it a prompt, and a lot of times I'll just be like watching a movie or watching TV. And then I'll see it finish the prompt, I'll test it, and then give it the next prompt, and then like I'll keep watching a movie.
Yeah, it's very kind of passive.
Yeah, because like this stuff still takes a while in its current state, but just gets faster and faster. I compare this a lot to like when we all used to have like Net Zero or Netscape, and you used to watch web pages load top to bottom, and it was just so slow. And it's like comical to think about that, and I think AI is going to feel like that soon. Like the idea that we used to wait for text to like write out on a screen is just going to feel like hilariously archaic here in a very short amount of time.
So we had a question come in that's interesting. So are these like AI agents, as in getting data feeds from previous game, getting data fed from previous game data that already exists? So you kind of talked a little bit about training it and the data sets that it's querying and stuff to put all this together. Is that how would you describe it, or is that accurate? Or?
Yeah, so I wouldn't describe it as an AI agent. I would just describe that as like how training models works. And a good thing to think about these training models is how much code is public and how much like shared verbiage is public. So like all these LLMs have been trained on GitHub, and GitHub is, for those who don't know what it is, it's just a giant public code repositories. And so almost all apps in the world that you've ever used have all their code deployed to GitHub. And these LLMs have been trained on all of that code. And so when I go to write a game called Space Invaders, it's probably been trained on thousands of Space Invaders that have all been built and deployed on GitHub. So when I say something like that, it has a huge frame of reference to go pull data from it, and it's been trained on very significantly. So that's why that's kind of deliberately why I chose something like Space Invaders for this demonstration. Or if you want to choose something like Tetris or Flappy Bird or something that is common, like it's very good at building those things and understanding how that code was written. But even if you're going to create something entirely new, you can just describe game loops or game mechanics, and they'll understand that very clearly as well.
So what about like, when you get down to the point of kind of fine tuning, I guess, at the end, and you want to change like super basic things, color, shape, stuff like that. You're still kind of just like, okay, but make the controller red or something.
Yeah, or like right now it's like, can you make our blue square in actual rocket ship?
I wonder. So you can it would be hard to do. I'm not sure if I could do it here. I could give it I can upload assets on Farcade Studio and then use those assets to actually do that stuff like here. So like drawing and painting is really easy. It might be able to draw like a rocket emoji as the player. Let's see, make the player a rocket emoji. I'm not sure how emojis work on Canvas, so this is me just guessing as someone, but it's
Let's find out.
the Farcade Studio makes it really easy to actually upload assets, and then I can use like that's like part of the stuff that we make really easy for builders is saying, here's the assets, now use that asset in my game. Which again is hard to do just when you're using.
So I can finally take that incredibly expensive mutant ape I bought 4 years ago and put it to use.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a huge revival of IP and those types of things. And we're talking with a lot of people who are just creating these ephemeral, short-lived experiences, kind of like Dookie Dash and stuff like that, where you could have those spun up all the time. Oh, there we go.
Oh yes, it's the actual rocket emoji. That's
again, what was that, like another minute? I was going to ask you about that because so we did have the question come in about, uploading your own image. So that's basically what you're saying. You can, if you have separately created assets, and I guess, as you get more intricate, then you could also probably do things like upload your own pre-rigged assets, or is it going to be like capable of rigging?
Yeah, so I'll go back. So let's just say we're done with the game. The game's great. Now I want to get it into the Farcade.
Okay.
So similar like how I was playing Geo Crush. Now I want this game to be seen by, our platform, which has hundreds of thousands of users. I now want people to come try my Space Invaders game. So I'll take the code. I'll come back over to, let me share this tab now. I'll come back over to the Farcade. I can actually just paste my code in here. I just will save it. And now I have the previewer over here. It looks like I would probably need to work on some resizing to make this work. But the cool part is we have asset uploads. So yeah, if you have like pre-rigged, especially this is really big for 3D games. There's a lot of people who use like these specific 3D assets. Like we have someone making a skateboarding game and he has this like really cool skateboard asset. So he just uploaded the asset here. And then you can just say with the chat, you can just say, use this asset as my skateboard.
Okay, easy.
Very
yeah,
cool.
super simple. And we actually are going to keep enhancing this too. One thing that we're going to work on is it'll actually create like a list down this side. It'll create a list of all the assets that we found in your code. And you can just actually swap them out in this GUI here. So you don't even have to go back to chat and ask it to do anything. You can just swap out the assets as we find them.
And I imagine as we talk about, like you mentioned, with GitHub, things that are public or open source, getting better and better at finding this kind of stuff. Because obviously, on any of those like asset databases where people have just free and open source little game assets, pre-rigged little characters, little stuff like that, you'd probably be able to kind of describe like, okay, well, this is sort of the vibe I'm going for. And, would it be just, I guess, based on like keywords and people's descriptions as they upload these things? Or
are you talking about for like asset generation or things like that?
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine, like if you wanted to, so we're doing this, okay, we're building this Space Invaders thing, but then you wanted to redo it like in the theme of VeggieTales or vegetables or something like that, right? And you wanted
VeggieTales.
You wanted to use like VeggieTales looking characters and graphics, right, to create this. And maybe someone out there has an open, like free to use something like that. Or I guess you could buy one and maybe upload it then yourself and then use assets that you've paid for, stuff like that.
Yeah, so the asset tab is going to be something that we continue to build out. Especially there's AI tools for generating assets, which will become cooler and better. They're kind of expensive right now, so that's why we don't have them. But the assets will have a pretty robust asset marketplace over time, where you can actually just pick from like templates or entire design aesthetics for your game, and then just quickly, easily be able to add them and drop them into your game. Especially things like stuff I didn't really know about making these types of games, but the things that are really slow are like sound effects, weirdly. Like a lot of times you can get to this like Space Invaders game. Like, again, we just built that in a few minutes. You can basically get to the end of this game and then you'll spend 2 hours trying to find the right sound effect or like the right laser sound. And that stuff can be like really time consuming. And so like AI tools for generating sound effects are going to be a really big unlock for making these games ship quicker. And so it's cool because now that we have our game in the Farcade, we have this like a lot of these other things where you can actually like record your gameplay. So something like this was you're not gonna be able to, let me see. Oh, you're not gonna be able to see this, but let me just stop sharing. Maybe this will come back up. Okay, yeah, that didn't. That's gonna be. Oh, did I lose my stream? Can you guys not see my screen?
Right. Can't see your screen anymore. No.
Yeah, let me bring that back up one sec. Arcade. So sorry, this record gameplay pops open another window. That bricked everything. But basically, we're trying to streamline a lot of this stuff outside of the game development that ends up taking a lot of times. Like, so a cool part with recording gameplay is that ends up creating the little video that shows up in the TikTok feed. It creates the thumbnails for your game. Like, those are just really little things that end up taking a lot of time, especially if like you're not a designer or don't know Photoshop and want like a good looking, thumbnail or store page for your game. So we streamline some of that stuff. We have basically an achievement system that gets built in on top of your game. We have analytics, so you can see like how people are doing stuff. You can see reviews and when people start responding and basically like your live ops for your game. So there's a ton of games that's just rebuilding a lot of like the same core building blocks just to get to the point where you're going to build your game. And so we're trying to get everybody to the point where they just build a game and we have all the other blocks for them and they don't have to worry about it.
Mhm. Alex, you are muted.
Sorry, the dog started barking and I tapped it. It's a couple questions coming through, and just in case you're kind of just jumping in, we started off kind of talking about this idea of being able to create quick and easy, like you said, hyper casual arcade style mobile games using AI, and kind of talked through a couple different scenarios, and then built one from scratch using the Farcade platform. And the initial prompt was just as simple as, I want to build a simple
This was the original prompt, was just, I want to create a simple Space Invaders game.
Simple Space Invaders. And then the question was about, are you using Cursor? And so that was one of the options, right? But you elected to go with Grok this time. So does that, I guess, what influences that choice, and why would you pick one or the other? Maybe.
Yeah, Cursor is for engineers, probably, and people who want, I guess, a lot more control over what they're able to do. So Cursor, I would say, is for people who have some semblance of coding history or code usage. I know there's a lot of people that have downloaded Cursor and don't actually know how to code. They just use the AI Studio or the AI interface to write the code. So I know there's people out there that do it. I think Grok and ChatGPT, I think, fill the need for not needing Cursor, because Cursor, I think, is just a lot of overhead for people who don't really need an entire code editor. But Cursor is great, and we have that option, and we do have a lot of people who are using Cursor to build their entire games, even though they're engineers, just because they've never built a game before, and then they just can upload their game to the Farcade. So Cursor is really cool.
So the people who don't know, and I'm in this group, who don't know really the difference between Cursor and building the other options, what are some of the extra capabilities that Cursor would provide you?
So Cursor is just a text editor for writing code. And the thing that Cursor has is it has a very robust AI chat interface that's specifically tailored to writing and updating code. And so, unlike Grok, where Grok is still very good at it, but Grok is meant to answer, what's the weather today? It's meant to answer any question you could have under the sun. It's not just built for code, where Cursor is just meant for writing and updating code very efficiently. So if you're using Cursor, you could actually, a cool thing that it does is, when we're making this update for the rocket emoji, in Grok, it has to rewrite the entire file, which takes a lot of time. In Cursor, it just knows to make this single change. It might need
single change.
Yeah, so it might find that specific line of code, make the one change. It ends up being a lot faster.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
So yeah, Cursor is very cool. I would say it's very unintuitive if you've never written code before, but not impossible. I just think it's a little bit more overhead to try to get people to a point where they're creating their first game.
So I'm curious too, if we fast forward a little bit into the project and up and running more, and like you said, right, look at TikTok. There's a big chunk of the app and the experience that is scrolling and watching videos and enjoying the content, being entertained, learning, whatever. And then the other half is in the creation. Is it, are you kind of walking towards as simple a procedure, I guess, as hey, cool, dope, I'm going to download Farcade and I'm going to make an account and boom, I'm in there kind of ready to start posting games. Is that kind of how you're imagining? And then people get individual profiles. You can go see all the games that someone else has created.
And then
a bunch of stuff kind of.
And then your algorithm is personalized to you, so you're getting games that it knows you like or might like. I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So even just the bucket of hyper casual gaming is a huge bucket for most gamers. We don't even have that many games in the Farcade, and there's certain games I never want to play, and there's certain games that I love to play. And so I always want to be fed the games that are more interesting to me. So a lot of that is why we talk about the TikTok feed is, if we have potentially hundreds of games being made every day, how do we surface the right games to the right people? Because every gamer definitely has their own preferences. And so
for sure.
But I do think there's just the natural power laws that will exist where most people are just going to be gamers and playing games. There's going to be less creators, and then there's going to be even fewer just really, really great game creators. But in general, there's just going to be a ton more game creators. And like, something that me and Bobby, my co-founder, were thinking of when we were building the Farcade was we were first building that game, and I think it like blew our minds when we had that experience you guys just saw, which was like we built our first game with like no code, and we had this moment where like this is going to be huge, like this is going to be how all games are going to be made. And currently there's estimated about 10 million plus or minus game developers in the world and about 3.5 billion gamers. And so what happens when now there's 3.5 billion potential game developers? Like, what does that world look like? And it's really insane. And so that's a lot of what we're trying to answer with the Farcade. And that's like why we're building it was what would a platform built to capture like hyper casual games look like in a world where everyone can build games? And that's what we're focusing on.
Okay, that I honestly had not even really thought about it that way, but I was at a toy kind of expo, like gaming convention, and there's a ton of like indie game creators who are building like tabletop or trading card or board game stuff like that. And I'm just now really like putting two and together to think like, okay, the barrier to entry to create something on paper and cut out little shapes and play a game on your tabletop is very low, but the access point to get people to try it out is insanely difficult. I mean, you immediately are facing so much money in production and distribution just to get a quick little sample size of 100 people to try out the game. And here it's like, I mean, I post a video on TikTok and immediately if I do something, great and entertaining or compelling or whatever, millions of people can watch it. And I've done nothing but click post.
It's amazing.
TikTok
is the ultimate distribution platform, and that's like why we love it, which is because that's going to be like the name of the game when everybody's creating games. Like the two biggest, most value adds you could give to a builder. Sorry, I might be lagging. Hopefully,
you're good. No, it's coming through. It's coming through.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the two biggest value adds you could give to a builder is distribution and monetization. And so those are the two things we're really thinking about. And so the AI game studio is really just a means to an end. It really just means to be a tool to create better games. But the problem we're really solving is how do I get anyone to come play my game and how do I monetize that game? And especially in a world where now there's potentially infinite supply and even less intention. So the path to distribution and monetization needs to be even faster and quicker. And it needs to be something as simple as post.
Yeah. Is there a monetization factor in Farcade for creators? Because I mean, obviously there's a huge incentive from a work productivity standpoint to come in and build your game and then potentially take it to wherever, or is there a financial monetary incentive to keep it in Farcade and, be in this, TikTok-esque environment?
There will never be an incentive for you to not take your stuff outside of the Farcade. I don't think we're not a fan of like walled gardens in a way. I think it's like a huge problem with the app stores and the Play stores and like Steam. Like I think it's pretty gross how much money those platforms take. I think it's like pretty predatory, quite frankly. Like the platform fees are 30% on a lot of those, which is I think very egregious. But people just don't really have a choice but to pay the piper, so to speak. And so for us, a lot of the monetization is going to come from all of platform revenue. The vast majority of it's going straight back as rev share to the top games in the Farcade studio at that point in time. So we're a really small team. And so that's something that like we're really focused on is giving really easy ways to add monetization to your game. So like in-app purchases, stores, all that stuff. And then we're streamlining advertising, spending, microtransactions on the consumer side. And so we're really trying to, create this really compelling flywheel where we have a bunch of money coming into the Farcade through all the means of which it comes in. A huge percentage of that is going straight back to the builders. And then
we lost live on TikTok.
It's
Evan didn't do the puzzle.
Evan got rugged.
We got rugged.
We're good. Keep
we're
it
fine.
going.
Sorry. Keep going.
but it's Yeah, so monetization is going to be really big, and that's something that we're very focused on, and something that we think we can do very well, especially with like the current number of users we have. There's a lot of really traditional ways to monetize attention, and that's something that we're really trying to pass through almost directly to the builders of the games who are capturing that attention.
Now, another question I have is, everything we've been talking about has been entirely focused around game development, game monetization, and coding in like the real dev side, right? And we've obviously been using and focusing on the AI portion of this. What about the blockchain piece?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start wrapping that in a bit.
Quick.
Wait, where am I pointing?
We are back on TikTok.
Oh, okay. We're back on TikTok.
Yep. They have all the audio, but if we want to put videos back up, then we're good.
Yeah.
Let me rejoin him.
Evan was too busy playing his internet game. Team Aqua, baby.
Oh, he's Team Aqua?
Yeah, he's Team Aqua.
Brief intermission as we re-rack. Quick, Will, dance.
No, too much. Too sexy.
Too sexy. That's too sexy.
Will, do something.
Has anyone ripped their shirt? Just ripped it right open on the show.
No, but it's on my
Not
to-do
yet.
list now.
It's on my to-do list.
It's on my to-do list. But then, so actually, this past Halloween, I wanted to make a video on different crypto topics and market updates and all that kind of stuff for as many costumes as I have. And I have a lot of costumes. And I made something like 17 videos,
Dude.
and every single one was
Yeah.
a different costume. It was about legitimately 17.
Yeah, he's not exaggerating.
I'm
17
not
is
exaggerating. And so I would be the guy to be like, oh, just in the middle and be like, oh, does anybody want a little bit of music? And then what I'm imagining in my head is I rip my shirt and I have a full mariachi suit underneath. And then I just start going,
That's pretty good.
Just having a great time. I would totally do that and have a blast with it. Well,
I love it.
Anyway, after just
Yeah.
a quick word from Evan,
you're muted, but your hair looks incredibly luxurious.
I'm here. I'm with you now.
back. Okay. Evan, welcome back.
Thank you.
So we were just about to kind of pivot the conversation to the blockchain side of things here. And all you missed was Chuck from scratch rebuilding Space Invaders in about 5 minutes.
Oh,
And
That's all. That's it.
Dude,
Come
it was-
on.
No, Evan, literally, like he does in the first prompt, and I'm like, okay, based on like my vague understanding of this, I'm now going to need to fill up like 10 minutes with some questions. I start talking, and I'm like a sentence and a half in, and Chuck's like, okay, and it's done. So
It's like,
Tell me why.
there it
God.
was.
like aliens coming down circles, but then the circles have explosions, and then like it's the game. It's like, oh, it's just not moving. Oh, okay, enhance, and then boom, here we are.
Well, everyone in the chat says it was awesome, so I will catch the replay, and I can't wait to play with it. But don't let me defer you. I'll catch up in the conversation. You were asking Will about blockchain. Where's it coming?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So we use a lot of the on-chain right now for the Farcade. A lot of the on-chain stuff is social identity and stuff like that. So one thing that we're really trying to do is bridge ecosystems. And so the Farcade is currently playable on Telegram as a Telegram mini app. And then if people are familiar with Farcaster is kind of like a Web3 Reddit or Twitter in a way. But they basically have a mini app architecture, so you can play it with the Farcade on the mini apps. And then in World App, which is really big in South America and like the Southern Hemisphere. But the cool part is you can be on any one of those apps playing games and playing with someone else on any one of these other apps. And so a lot of the social identities are on chain. The big thing for the Farcade is we'll have our own token, which will basically be used as like the financial monetization token used throughout the Farcade. So you'll use it to buy skins, enter tournaments. You can actually wager in games against friends. So it'll be using it as like wagering, which is really fun. That feature actually like took off way more than we thought it would.
Wait, the feature where gambling is included took off in this crypto Web3 space? Oh my goodness, Chuck.
It was interesting because it's I know what you're saying. I agree with that, but it was more it says you're just playing against friends. I thought it wouldn't be as appealing since like you're kind of just wagering against. It's not like this like random like I can just throw money into a pot and then something happens. It is like a little bit more deliberate. and a little bit more time intensive than I'd say most crypto gambling, but it is people love it. People love just putting like a little extra stake in a game with somebody.
Well, it's not gambling; it's skill based. So
yeah, it's skill based. So
True.
it's technically not gambling, which is a very important distinction. And so
Mm-hmm.
then on the builder side, you use the token for asset marketplace, better AI models, and chat messages, because unfortunately that stuff is still very expensive. And then the coolest part is boosted distribution. So something that you guys are all familiar with TikTok that is very cool is just being able to throw a little money to get visibility to your post. You can do that with a Farcade, where if you want to be on the front page of the Farcade or send notifications out to all of our users or run premium tournaments, you can use our token to facilitate that extra engagement. And then so that's like the near term, I'd say, for the on-chain stuff. Long chain, we're working with a couple big partners that we haven't announced yet, where we put in like your player identity on chain. So like all of your scores, achievements, reputation. So people can actually start using that as like a much better advertising model for people as gamers. And then the coolest one, which we haven't talked about a lot, is if you're a game creator on the Farcade and you've made enough successful games that have reached enough views or plays, you actually graduate into what's called a game studio. And that game studio is backed by its own token, which is then traded with our own Farcade token. So like Alex, if you made like the most popular game in Farcade, you would actually graduate into a game studio, and then I could actually go buy Alex tokens and share in the upside of all the future games that you build on the Farcade.
I was going to ask about kind of that, the integration of more individualized stuff, because I imagine then it would be pretty sweet also to be able to create non-fungible tokens then to represent different pieces in these things eventually. Kind of in conjunction. So, I mean, do you see that kind of an integration of fungible and non-fungible alike for okay?
Yeah. So the game creators will actually be able to create their own store items, and all those store items will be either NFTs or fungible tokens. And then on the consumer side, you use our token as basically usually the base currency for buying and trading those things. So if I wanted to add, like for our Space Invaders game, if we wanted to add that rocket emoji as an aesthetic that people could pay for, that would be an NFT on chain that people could actually go buy from the consumer side. And we handle all that on chain abstraction and complexity.
Yeah, okay. I only have
19,000 other
questions. There are so many possibilities here, and I think the most exciting piece for me is just this idea that to be able to crowd test ideas before having to spend the time or the money or the research. People who have an idea that I think would be really sweet to like want to try to test out with an audience, get that more meritocratic like system of judgment on a game idea, not just like, lucky for you, you have $20 million and you can afford to build this whole thing out.
I think like I kind of had this shower thought the other day, which is there's this like classic like business expression that's like, ideas are worth nothing, execution is everything. And I think with AI empowered tools, it's almost going to flip, where ideas are going to be worth everything because execution is going to be free.
100%.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Let's get some dings.
Evan, that sounds like a cue for you to briefly talk about your on-chain idea that you've been running for how many years now?
Oh, are you talking about
yes.
I have this silly smart contract.
Oh,
I started back
thing I've been doing for years to put my ideas on chain?
No. I just, a lot of people talk about how we're going to use tokens in the future. And most use cases, let's be honest, they haven't been conceived of yet.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that we have a really great novel way to prove that a person did a thing, to establish a pretty rudimentary record of provenance. So I have this smart contract where it's, I use the no code like JPEG maker on the blockchain formerly known as Elrond, Multiverse X, because we were building there at the time.
Give yourself a Gwump for that one, though.
Gwump big time for Multiverse X. And it's just I can add an NFT with an image every time I have an idea that I want to protect. And the image, I usually make like a little placeholder, just a black background, white text that has like the million person NFT, or the walk across America, or proof of ownership or whatever the idea is named. And then in the metadata, I write proof of ownership is a conceptual performance where the performer auctions off pieces of their body and their future self as tokens or whatever. You know what I mean? Like just to establish a cool idea that I have that I want people to know is mine. In order that if I wish to do something with it in the future, it's already tokenized. It's like a patent, it's like a proof. And also, I could do some cool stuff with it. I could put it in a contract, I could fractionalize it, whatever.
Like I love shit like that because I think like so much of on-chain stuff is still like it's not its fault because it's a value prop of it, but everything's like thought too much in like almost DeFi or financialized terms. Like we're not thinking enough about like data provenance, and especially when it comes to like AI and content creation, provenance of ideas and content is going to be incredibly important, and improvability is going to be incredibly important. Where AI videos can replicate anything almost instantly. So like I think we're really going to need more stuff on chain. That's not necessarily, this isn't just a token to buy and speculate on. This is a token that represents an idea or value or data. We need more of those things.
Do you know Evan McMullen? Because were you going there, Alex?
I was just, eventually, yes. I was just going to say to echo these things, something I talk about all the time that I care very deeply for, and I'm constantly working on is my on-chain resume, as I call it, just tokenized or on-chain proof that I was here at this point and participated in this thing. So like a crazy meme will come out that is like, monumental or a famous scam or something like that. I will usually go and add at least one of them to a wallet at one point, like quick in the beginning, just to be able to like mark my participation in this entire industry, like from concept to wherever we happen to be today with all the bullshit.
Kanye.
Honestly, I kind of love that.
Ones. Yeah, not the Nazi ones. Yeah, probably for the best.
I skip
stuff. Explain what you mean. You kind of love what, Chuck?
Oh, I love the idea. I would kind of wish I was doing that. With just like buying like $1 worth of fungible tokens and all these ones that I think are like monumental. Just like I had Haktua. I had all these like ridiculous ones. Just like participating in the meta.
Yep, that's all it is. I don't care at all about like monetary return on any of that kind of stuff. I want a record on these blockchains that like I was here. I was on all 13 of these different blockchains with a wallet doing this thing with this token.
What was the name of the squirrel token?
Peanut.
The squirrel that got Peanut that got killed by the feds.
Peanut. Points for Peanut.
So much fun to like go back through a year of like a bull run and a bear run, and you're just like, that.
No, dude, I'll tell you why. It's because eventually someone like Chuck is going to come around and build a thing called the Web3 or the blockchain yearbook, and I'm going to plug a wallet address in, and it's going to mint me a bunch of pages with all these little moments on it that I've participated in on chain, proven by my token activity. And then I'm going to be able to show you like, dude, look at and it's all going to be provable and immutable. And there it is. And like nothing you can say about it. Like I was here this whole time clicking around, doing this thing, getting rugged, doing all this shit,
I definitely love that, especially in like the smaller niche of gaming. Like I think gaming achievements and provenance is like such a, I think that a lot of gamers wish they had more of. Like I would love to like have NFTs or provability, like something I could prove that I was like, I was this rank on a leaderboard for Warcraft 3 back in, 2000 or something. Like I think there's a lot of stuff in gaming that you just wish you could prove on chain or had some more data around. And I think that stuff is really fun, and I think there's a lot of room to explore in that space.
I'm curious. Can you talk more about the flexibility of what you're building in terms of what are you? And maybe I missed it because I was wrapping up with a little bow, one or two survival things. I made it, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Yeah.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah. Not that you asked. Thank you very much. I am curious to know more about how, if somebody like me or Alex or Will is thinking about that, one of our audience members is maybe wanting to build a game with that in mind, but it's like not a feature you support yet. Can you talk a little more about the tools? Because you said you take care of all that on the back end, but like how flexible is it? How programmable is it? What different chains do you envision supporting? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So right now I'd say it's very rigid because I think it's we're definitely trying to build a type of game in the Farcade, which is really reminiscent of like early art style arcade games, which are what are referred to as like stateless single player games. And what that means is like I get a start screen, I play the game, I get an end screen and a score. but
Mhm.
like I don't get to like progress through levels. I don't like get to come back to this game all the time. It's really like these like 30 to 60 second time windows is really that sweet spot for Farcade games, because we do think of ourselves being like this hyper casual or really even like hyper casual gaming arcade for right now. So for those things, like if you want to build a game, I think like for right now, the things that are really great models are just old arcades like Galaga's, Space Invaders, Pac-Man, Pong, like these things that are like pretty simple, like not like crazy game loops, don't have levels, like all of that stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, that's like, again, I think this is like
It's
we're
a
talking
step.
about like, yeah, this is like the first step of
Right.
because we literally just opened up this studio on Friday. So like I think
right.
if we had this
Damn.
conversation in a month from
Hurry up,
now,
Chuck. Get it going.
yeah, so in a month from now, we're probably talking about having multiplayer, asset generation,
Oh my
more
God,
on-chain
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
And then in 6 months from now, we're talking about like entire 3D worlds and
Sure.
levels and progress and like editors. And so
It feels like you're saying a month from now, 6 months from now, as if that's an incredible amount of time. And I'm sitting over here being like, dude, that's insane. If you told me 2 years from now for, like 3D asset generation or multiplayer, I'd be like, okay, cool. That's it. That about tracks.
Well, I mean, you can do like 3JS, which is like a 3D asset thing. Well, let's just try it. I haven't done this a lot, but let's see if we can make
Let's
it.
just
See if we can
try
make
it,
one.
man. Let's do it live. Fuck it. Let's go.
Let's just try it. I have no idea if this is going to be any good, but we're going to go for it. So let's go back to the Farcade studio.
You know what this reminds me of too? While Chuck is pulling it up.
Oh my God, he could make Banjo Kazooie.
No, we'll do it's like a 3D game. Let's do a 3D.
You're talking about Banjo Kazooie. If that like qualifies, I was a PS1 guy. I would be more like a Spyro the Dragon or a Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, Spyro was great. Yeah.
Or
yeah,
even like a
great.
I don't know, like an early fighter game, like a Tekken. Is that 3D?
Let's just say a 3D Infinite Runner. Let's see like what kind of prompts.
Okay. Okay. Man, I'm gonna have to learn some jargon to play with this thing.
So like this part is like it's just like the things that we do that like make things simple. Is like if you wanted to make an Infinite Runner in 3D, like you would never know to use this library unless you're a coder. And like this is stuff that like we try to help anybody with. So let's see if it actually kept the 3JS. Yeah, there it is. So it's writing the prompt for me, which I'm now going to go take over to Grok. Let's share this tab.
Good evening, Chuck.
So yep, we're going to start writing this game. So yeah, there it goes. So we can
wild.
Yeah, we can keep chatting now. So we'll see how this does. I have no fucking clue how good it is at 3JS stuff. I've seen
Let's find out.
I think a lot of people that do 3JS stuff end up doing this in Cursor because I think you could go back and forth a lot more frequently than you do with 2D stuff. But we'll find out.
I've heard a lot about Cursor, and I feel like the other one is maybe Whisper. Is the other like Vibecoding app that people are doing a lot of right now?
Yeah, so it's Super Whisper, I think is what it's called, which is literally just a recording software that allows you just to talk to your app, and then it does basically that step right here. This step where it like translates my really simple. What was my prompt? My prompt was I want a simple 3D game, and it translated it into like computer speak of like something like that an AI would understand really well. Yeah. This is basically what Super Whisper does, but instead of having to write code or type, I can just talk, and it will like do all this for me.
Real quick, Chuck, I have brought in a good friend of ours that you may know. Oh, did he come? Yeah, well,
he popped up for a second.
He rugged me. Mike, if you're here, let me know. Do you know Mike.eth? He's over at Coinbase now. He's a power user of Warpcast, Farcaster, and Base. He built the Base token store, and he also did Logadog last year. Many things. He said didn't mean to request. He's a great dev, cool guy. Okay. I thought maybe he had a good question, but what do we got here?
Okay, so let's see. So unfortunately, the Grok preview I don't think will work. I'll have to bring this over to. Let's bring this over to the studio. Let me share this tab now. Let's see if we got anything here. Touch to start.
Dude, you know what I'm going to bring back?
Oh, it's not going to let me touch it. So I can't. I'm not on a mobile device here. Hold on. Let me see if this actually works, and then I'll pull it up. I think this might work. The code looks good. 1 second.
What kind of game were you trying to make with a 3D model?
I just was trying to do
You said an infinite runner?
just an infinite runner. So something that
like a temple run.
Yeah, like a temple run. Yeah. Okay.
I love that Chuck could say at a glance, no, the code looks good. You guys thought that, right, Will? Alex? I thought the code looked good.
I mean, it looked like code to me.
Yeah.
That's
like good.
That's not as surprising to me because I've heard my dad take a 5-second look at a block and be like, what the hell is this nonsense? Or like, yeah, okay, that tracks. Like,
yeah, it's oh man, I can like see the assets behind it, but it's just not. Let's see. Let's give it a. Let me go back to the 3D runner. Okay, we can keep chatting, but I'm gonna see if we'll get some more problems.
This is the coolest. Just watching you do. I'm a big fan of just watching smart people do their work because it's just
skilled artisans at a craft.
Yeah, it's just. While you're doing that, Chuck, let me just ask you the 19,000 other questions that I wrote down here.
Yeah,
I was actually semi-relevant. I was going to ask you, so the code that it's writing here that you're then going to eventually, perfect and then put into Farcade as the game. Is this code like good elsewhere? This might be kind of a dumb question, but like, is it good elsewhere if you wanted to try to deploy this somewhere that's not Farcade?
Yeah. So this code is just built on what it's called like a web standard. So this is just like stuff that you can build and it'll work in any browser essentially. So this is just like vanilla JavaScript, vanilla HTML. So this will run literally anywhere on the web. To get it to work in the studio, we basically give you a little prompt, and I'll show you what this looks like. We basically give you this prompt that's kind of a lot of code speak, but basically tells the AI how to make the game work within the Farcade. Because we do simple things like in the Farcade, when the games end, we show a game over screen, we report the score, we create the leaderboards. We have these events for like handling mutes, and so we basically like have this framework that sits on top of your game, so you don't have to worry about the things like creating leaderboards and achievements. We do all of that for you.
And you guys there's no like you touched on this a little bit earlier. As you generate code through the platform, if you did want to take it elsewhere and deploy it, you're free to do that. There's nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very easy just to go take it. Oh, come on, let it work.
And you may have already said this, but what are some of the achievements that you have stock right now? Like probably highest score, maybe like first player or something like that. Most active, simple things.
Yeah. So achievements. The way that the achievements work right now is basically if you get in like the top percentiles, you get these achievements for scores. And so basically as the game first launches, there's no achievements. People just start playing the game. And then once we get to a certain number of plays, we basically create the achievement system for that game. And so this is like a part of like the graduation process for a game itself, which is when everyone's creating games, we want there to be like everyone able to play those games, but we want there to be like a sufficient amount of data to create like what is a good breakdown of achievements. And so good.
Just it kind of feels like that also then starts to walk us towards all of the different social integrations. I would imagine the social-fi part of this entire platform. I feel like if you have all these different achievements that people are able to log and catalog, and then how do the rest of us on the platform with people posting games or playing games interact with each other? You think of the classic stuff, right? Like, likes, comments, shares, whatever. But then additionally, it feels like an awesome way to have like these cross ecosystem leaderboards that combine like metrics from all sorts of different games and the way that people can interact with, like hours logged and number of games played or number of times you've reached a high score or something like that. It feels like a cool way to expand.
Yeah, I mean, something we haven't announced publicly yet, but something coming soon is a concept called leagues. So leagues will be coming to the Farcade, which is going to be a really cool way to create like something we really hate. I guess the big problem statement around leagues is global leaderboards. global leaderboards feel kind of like inherently not fun for 99% of the users. Like there's really very few people, especially in like a mobile game platform like this, like very, very few people can compete for the top 100.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're launching a concept called leagues, which is really inspired from like Duolingo leagues, which is when you play your first game in the Farcade, you get placed in the bronze league. And then each league gets capped out at 50 to 100 people. And so then you're just competing with those groups of people for playing games throughout the week. And then if you're in the top group, or if you're in like the top 10 people in your group, you get promoted a league. And if you're in the bottom 10, you go down a league. And so it makes this, I think it's going to be a ton of fun because everything's a lot more digestible because you're not playing against the other hundreds of thousands of people. You kind of get put into these buckets of just people in smaller cohorts. And then you're just competing against people in your cohort to go up and down leagues. And then if you get all the way to Diamond League, you'll get access to cash tournaments, which will be running every day. So if you're in Diamond League, there's a chance to actually be earning a lot of money while you're on the platform.
That's cool. Way more.
So not dissimilar to kind of like what live stream apps like TikTok would do. Something familiar for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So hopefully it's familiar. Hopefully it's like fun, and hopefully like something that gives you like a broader game to play across the Farcade, where you're not just playing, I'm trying to climb this leaderboard in Tower Blocks or GeoCrush, but I'm just trying to climb across the platform. I don't understand how this dude's brain works.
Chuck was conceived,
in the Matrix.
This is our good friend Justin, whose actual question is: wait, so is AI writing the code to make things compatible? And it sounds like to some extent the answer is yes. Grok is in fact drafting the code, and then you might refine it, right?
Yeah, and
no, then you ask Grok to refine it.
Yeah. You never write the code. Yeah, you're always just talking because it's better. But yes, I hope. So to complete the integration to make things work with Farcade, we have the AI do that. You don't have to do that. We basically give them a prompt to allow the AI to complete the integration.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're coming up close to the time when we would do our final thoughts. We'd award the winner of the show their grand prize, and we'd ride our dogs and ponies into the sunset. I feel like that's a good time to say to the audience, if you're with us and you have a question and we've missed it, let us know what that is. If you've got a question about the Farcade for Chuck, if you've got a question about what it's like to be born in the Matrix, then maybe he'll entertain that too. But I would love to know, Chuck, is there anything else that we didn't ask, or Alex, in your list of 18,997 questions? Are there any really, big ones that you wanted to get to?
There was one that I wanted to at least mention because I know it's a more recent announcement and one that I'm personally beyond excited about. I think anybody who knows him would be super stoked about, and that's you guys bringing on Sam in the CMO position. So I know that's relatively recent, but obviously, like, what a cool marriage of just amazing people doing badass shit. So how did that come? Because for those who aren't familiar, Sam does a ton of stuff, right? Like, I talk about him a lot. He hosts multiple shows. He's a core contributor at Wolves DAO, which, Chuck, you're also a part of. Shout out to the Wolves DAO, huge fans. And he also he just does a whole bunch of other stuff. Now Woof, the token is a thing, and a whole bunch of work I'm sure is happening with all of that. So, one, how on earth does Sam have time to also be a CMO? And the way that he answered that was a really good write-up just about how perfectly all this stuff fits together. So I kind of want to just hear a little bit more about, bringing Sam on and how that's been going and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a great question. So literally, as my brother and I were just talking, and I was telling him that's, had just gotten off the call with Sam, and he loved a lot of the Farcade and actually had a lot of ideas about things that we could be doing and content and all this stuff. And then my brother and I were like, my brother's like, well, does he want to come be CMO? And I was like, no, he would never. Like, he has an awesome gig. I think he loves what he's doing. I don't think he would ever come to do this. And I know just from being friends with him how often he gets that question. I think a lot of people in the space want him to come work there because he's extremely talented. And I sent him a message. I was like, hey, dude, no pressure. Would you have any interest in kind of just building this crazy startup with us and just like going all in on Farcade for a little bit and see what we can do. And I think it was just a lot of great timing. I think he had been building his brand for a couple of years. I think running your own company is really challenging with like, BD deals. You just have to wear a ton of hats. And I think we were offering him something I think was really compelling, which was like, just sink your teeth into Farcade and like be the marketer around this and do all the things that you love doing with like creating content, marketing plans. And he just really aligned with what we were building. I think he was really excited by like the future and the vision, and it felt like something he could have a lot of impact on quickly, because I think he felt a little frustrated with how slow the turnaround is for a lot of these AAA titles, where he'd go work at these places and they wouldn't have a game for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. And so it's like, there's not a lot he can do. But with us, like we're making games in 10 minutes on, StreamYard. So we have a lot of stuff to be making and building, and it lends really well to someone who's a content creator, because this really is like a content creation platform. So yeah, I think just like a lot of stars aligned, honestly. And so we feel super lucky. And yeah, I think once Wolves Den at GDC is done, you'll be seeing a lot more of Sam on the Farcade stuff.
Sweet. Yeah, no, I'm excited. The GDC is on my short list of things to make it to. I've wanted to go for years. It's one of those, like, especially while we were starting down the path of building what we were working on. I listened to so many lectures over there, and then finding out that all of you guys go hang out there, we was like, oh, dude, I have to get out there.
I know.
I'm hoping
excited.
that 2026 will be the year that I get to GDC, but
I missed it last year, so I'm excited to go this year. It'll be fun.
And what is Wolves Den? Just for,
Wolves,
for people who...
Yeah, Wolves Den is like the big Wolves DAO, which is a gaming community. It's their big like flagship event every year, which is they get a huge house in San Francisco during the GDC conference. And it's just a lot of gaming activations. Like there's, LAN setups where everyone's playing like the newest alphas and the newest games. There's a bunch of streaming setups for people doing shows like this.
I'm just imagining the greatest LAN party.
Yeah.
And it's just like everyone's brought their old original Xbox and playing Halo.
It's a lot like that. I think it's a lot of us like, now just a bit older trying to recreate the LAN party vibes. Yeah. There's a lot of that. And just like, and it's just fun getting to see friends in real life. We spend so much time over Zoom calls in this world. And so it's fun just to get to hang out in real life.
We've talked about that. There is nothing better than, especially like for the three of us to be able to get together and broadcast the show all together in person. We've only gotten to do it a few times, but it's a totally different experience. Will commented last time on being able to like look at you sitting in the chair, right next to you during the episode and stuff, instead of forgetting you don't have to stare at a screen the whole time.
Don't have to stare at the screen.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. So what about Farcade? Are you guys attending any other conferences this year? Are you going to
what about Farcon?
Yeah,
we will be at Farcon. We're talking with the Farcon team. We definitely want to do. I'm talking with some people about trying to get like a real physical arcade machine that has the Farcade on it.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Awesome.
That would be so cool, dude.
So talking with someone right now about that. And then we'll definitely be there. So it's GDC, Farcon, and we'll probably chill out for a little bit for the summer and then find something in the spring or in the fall.
My last question is the most important, and I've saved it for the end. What do I have to do, Chuck, to get a couple of those badass shirts that you guys had in Denver?
That's sick.
Oh,
dude.
Yeah, that shirt was awesome.
Wait, where are they? Do we have a picture? Can I pull it up somewhere on the line?
No, I don't know.
I think
it's this like just super retro, like very arcade, Flynn's arcade vibes. Evan, Flynn's Arcade is the arcade from Tron.
Listen, shut up. Are they on the Farcade Twitter? Do you think
they're actually not? Which I thought they were. I think I was reposting people doing it. I can find. I'll find you a photo. They're really cool. Like the second we designed them, we were debating whether we were going to get them because there was paying the money for T-shirts is always a bit of a tough pill when you're a startup. But the second we saw them, we're like, those are just so sick. We got.
You're talking about this?
There you go.
Yeah,
there it is.
That's the one.
Look at that
How cool
imprint,
is that?
baby.
Well, it's cool. I mean, the coolest part about them is like it's really vintage inspired style. So the screen printing, like on mine, I've started washing. It's like already starting to crack and like kind of look faded, so
Yeah.
they're gonna be sweet. And but yeah, no, you guys got them. Just are you guys gonna be at FarCon?
Well,
Or-
if I know I'm getting this cool T-shirt, what are the dates? Because we're going to Consensus in May.
It's the first weekend in May, and I think Consensus is the weekend after in Toronto, or like
So
you know.
Yeah,
we
May
might
14th,
have
15th,
to make a
and
little
16th
pit
in
stop, is what you're
Toronto.
telling me. Oh my gosh,
You guys
where's
should.
FarCon?
I think I'm gonna go to Toronto as well, so I can bring them there.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Sweet.
And what about you, Chuck? Is there anything that you wanted to ask of us or that our audience can do? You know, do you need more signups, more people to build games, more people to play games? How can we help you?
No, I mean, I just was really excited to come chat with you guys for a couple hours. Like I spend most of my day just with my eyes glued to a code editor. So it's super fun just to get to chat about what we're doing and show the world of like what's happening. I think I'm really just trying to impart on people, whether they do it at the Farcade or they do it somewhere else, to like try these AI tools. You're going to be blown away at what you're capable of doing. Like everybody's going to be able to make games, and it's making a game is just such a fun, creative process. And when you can eliminate the friction of knowing how to code, it just makes it even that much better. And so I think just keep the Farcade in mind if you start dabbling in this stuff and you want to have users and grow. Like we're trying to be a platform that's great for you. And so again, I think most of what I wanted to get out of this show is just coming to hang out with you guys for a couple hours. So
I am already trying to think of dolphin themed games I can make for people, because there's like
need you to ban
there's
Will
so
from
many
the
there's so
platform.
many inside jokes across the thousands of hours that we've posted online and that we've been here.
God
One of
damn
them
it.
for mine is a dolphin making a dolphin noise.
Did you
So-
play Dolphin Olympics back in the day?
No, I
What?
didn't.
Oh my God, that was like a deep cut memory that you just unlocked in my mind.
Dolphin Olympics. What even is that?
Dolphin Olympics.
Isn't that? I think that's what it's called.
Okay,
From
we
Cool
definitely
Math
need to-
Games?
I think it's Cool Math Games. Yeah. You're just
Oh
a
my
little dolphin
God.
in the water, and you're basically trying to like go more and more vertical, and you basically use the timing
Dude.
to get higher and higher out
Oh,
of the water.
yeah. Yes.
I totally played this game. I remember
yeah,
this game.
'Cause
It was
your
like
goal- you're trying to get to like the moon, or you like basically start going into outer space because you're shooting. So
Oh my
high.
God, you're trying to get to the moon. This is perfect. I need Farcade to recreate this
I'm
game.
gonna make this game in the Farcade now, or
Dude.
Will, you can make it. I'll help you do that. 'Cause this
Yeah,
game
I
should
would
be
love
in-
that.
I need you to
We
ban
need.
Will from the
I need.
platform.
No, we need to build
immediately.
this together. No, seriously, we need to build this together.
I'm down. I want that game badly. It's that and
No,
Robot.
our community would
What was the
love
What was the
that.
one with the penguin? A game I would build is you remember the penguin with the Yeti who's got a baseball bat and he smacks the penguin, and the penguin, you got to like up and down your penguin to make him
Ooh.
perfectly aerodynamic, and the farther he goes the more points you get.
First of all,
was-
Evan, I am against animal cruelty. Okay.
Listen, man, the penguin was smiling the whole time, okay? He's like having a really good time. He would like flip over in the air. It was
man.
not violent. It was like that game.
No, but you
you
did
know.
remind me of like the game that came on the computer that was like the Abominable Snowman. You know, it was came on the computer.
Oh,
You were like
yeah.
a
Yeah,
skier,
where
and
you're
then
ski-
you would
free
get
ski.
caught. Yeah,
Free
free
ski.
ski.
Yeah, we got a
yeah.
surprise. We got a surprise for you.
Oh, you
In the
have it.
Do you have ski free in the Farcade?
Maybe. Maybe soon.
Maybe soon.
Maybe,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's-
dude.
that was
but
that
I'm
was
serious. I'd love to have you walk me through how to make the dolphin Olympic game.
yeah. I mean, that one would be cool because like the best way to build the games, you basically just start with like generic shapes and then you can add the assets later. But like that one would be like a perfect Farcade game because
Yeah.
it'd be
And
right.
and then once you got to the moon, on the moon would be like the Rise Up logo.
Hell yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it, man.
I'm bullish about it.
And then also the moon is just like my face and like, but like a gigantic chin.
with a chin.
yeah. Exactly.
So you guys are talking about these like nostalgic blast from the past things. Do you want to know what I used to play on the computer when I was a little lad with my first personal computer?
Was it
Yeah.
just Minesweeper or the pinball game?
I feel like anyone who's met me or who knows me a little bit probably won't be surprised. It was called the Eyewitness History Museum, and you basically just went on a tour of the history museum, and you could click on the exhibits and like read about them, and you just like it was.
I'm gonna
that kind
speed
of-
run this.
Yeah.
Speed run the museum.
Dude, it was so cool.
Is that technically a game or is that just
dude? Hell yeah, of course it was.
It was an
Oh my God.
experience.
yeah?
No,
Yeah, dude.
okay. All right.
Oh.
Listen, I'm not going to take any eyewitness history slander. Okay. So
Not today.
let me see if I
Uh.
can find that. Because, dude, the theme song
Oh, I'm losing you a bit.
called Eyewitness History. Oh, my computer's.
I got you back.
There we go.
Oh, don't fret. I'll get it. I'll
we
get
good?
it. Check it. Eyewitness History of the World. Was it version 2.0, Alex? Okay, because let's see what this looks like.
I specifically had the one about the Dinosaur History Museum where you could look at dinosaur exhibits and check out skeletons, and there was like little puzzle games of like putting the bones where they were supposed to be. And
Okay, tell me when
Yeah,
you
this
see
is-
the one
this
that
is-
you recognize. Abe Lincoln over here, or
nope, we're looking for
classic video
dinosaurs.
games?
Virtual, yeah.
Dinosaurs, fat guy in a hat.
That was King
That's
Henry
Henry
VIII.
VIII.
That's King
Whatever,
Henry
potato
VIII.
tomato. I
Dude,
read his plays. They were
there
just
we go.
fine.
There we go.
Dinosaur
there we go.
Hunter. Oh,
He didn't
honestly,
write
this
those
looks like it
plays.
was killer.
Yeah, that's it right there. That's it right there. Dude, okay. All right. Do yourselves all a favor. And Chuck, let me explore a three-dimensional eyewitness history museum with dinosaurs.
Yeah, bring dinosaurs back to life.
It seems
Dude, it was so
possible. I think you could do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think
Okay.
for the most hours in
Right.
an Oregon Trail, actually.
I know I'll have one user. We got one user.
One
Yeah, you've already got a
user.
user. Yeah, exactly.
But man,
that's
he's
right.
on every day for like an extended period. Of
What's
time.
this guy doing?
This
He's-
guy hasn't left the museum.
He hasn't
staying
even
there.
left the Velociraptor
He
exhibit. He's in
loves
this
this
one
shit.
room. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, monsters and machines, people and creatures of all ages, the time has come when we're about to do our final thoughts. So if you've got a final thought, a question, a suggestion, a complaint, keep that for later. But if you've got a good joke or word of wisdom or anything else for Chuck or for us, you can leave it in the chat. If you want to see more of the show, then check us out at the riseupmorningshow.com. You can find links to all of our socials there. You can find this episode recording on your social of choice. I think the best place to watch it is probably YouTube in the Rise Up After Dark playlist. And you can catch more of us live right here on TikTok tomorrow at Monday through Thursday. Well, I guess TikTok, YouTube, TikTok, everywhere you live. Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be back to wrap out the week, answering your crypto questions tomorrow. And of course, if you haven't already, jump in the Rise Up Discord server. It's totally free. The only thing missing is you. So, whoops, that was not my ding. I don't know what that was about.
Pretty much.
Just
Nailed it.
flushing the show down the toilet. See you later.
Been there before. The only thing left to do before we get final thoughts, of course. I was listening to the show lightly, and I managed to give a couple of points and a couple of gwumps. So I'm going to hand out the final totals. In last
Chuck, if
place,
it's not clear, this is the most rigged game of all time.
as I was saying, in last place with
Because you've only won
negative
once.
1 points, the blockchain formerly known as Elrond.
Multiverse
So
Rip.
sorry. Come back next time. In third place with 4 points, we had Alex. In second place with 5 points, we had Will. And in third place, 6 points, we had me. Thank you very much, which means that our winner.
You weren't
for
even
tonight,
here for half
the
of it.
champion
How
of
did you
the
get
You weren't even here
show,
for half of it.
our
Wait a
guest,
second.
Hold
Chuck
on a
Blackstock.
second, you sack of shit.
And
Oh my
just
God.
because I know he's
The right
a
man
game
won.
fan, I'm going to give him this one. For come back again soon. We really appreciate you, and we will go around and do a round of final thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Chuck, you want to go first since you're our honored guest? Do you have a final thought for our audience?
No, thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. This was super fun. I really love what you guys are doing. And when I reached out to Alex a long time ago, I was very excited about this opportunity, and this was as much fun as I thought it and hoped it would be. So thanks so much for having me. And everyone, go make games. You're a game builder now. Go do it.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, this can work on my code smooth brain.
Even Will can do it. New slogan.
Even Will
Talk to-
can do it.
Talk to Sam about the campaign.
It should be even Will can do it, and then in small print, not so sure about Evan though.
Not so sure.
Yeah, Alex, what about you? Final thought, Will?
Yeah, Chuck, again, this was awesome. I was super excited about this episode. I know that for a lot of our regular listeners who probably tuned in and saw that there was no market talk, just for the record, this is the reason that I'm obsessed with this industry, because people like Chuck are here in Web3 when they could be, you could be making so much money at some boring corporate Web2 thing, and we're all here building what Evan likes to describe as, the next iteration of the internet, the better iteration of the internet. So dude, to have you here talking about the project and watching it happen live, and like even knowing that you told me it was going to be quick, like seeing it in person was super, super cool. I'm excited to have you back. Maybe now you can finally bully Sam into coming on here. You can force him as his boss.
Yeah, I'll get him on here because he's the best. Yeah, I'll get him on here.
But no, just thanks so much for giving us so much of your time tonight. It was awesome, dude. It was so cool to watch.
Thanks, man. I really
William?
appreciate it.
Have you got a
Yeah.
final thought for us, Will?
Only final thought for me is Web3 gaming is the thing that made me really excited about altcoins outside of Ethereum back in 2017, because it was the only use case that I saw at the time before I really dove into DeFi, where I was like, hey, this could genuinely get adoption amongst its targeted audience. And also it's the only thing outside of finance that I see that is already kind of like the Web 2 world, if you will, is already kind of like moving in that direction towards being able to spend billions of dollars on digital products. So if you want to get people on chain, yeah, DeFi is great. And platform cryptos like Ethereum and Solana are great for getting developers on. But the global pool of people that we have who invest in general or are interested in finance is a pretty damn small percent of the population. But the percent of the population who plays video games is very, very, very high. And so if you want to get the world on chain, meet them where the people are at, and where the people are at is playing games. So if you can find ways to make fun games in ways that are engaging and lower their total cost of ownership and enable them to do some cool stuff with digital products that they own, and enable gaming companies to create new means of cash flow and stuff, then, you know, this is the coolest thing in crypto. And I love it. Web3 gaming has been my most anticipated, excited announcements that I ever see in the industry, because I just know it's going to be that thing that gets the people on chain. So those are my final thoughts there. And then I also really want to start making a dolphin video game. And
Hell yeah.
so
Let's
serious.
do it.
So Chuck, just let me know what the best way is to coordinate that.
Yeah, let's do it.
And my final thought is going to be what it always is, which is to say, remember, these are our only accounts. Wherever you're watching this, if you see somebody who looks like me or Alex or Will or Chuck slides into your DMs and says, hey, how are the markets treating you? Or, hey, may I give you some investment advice? That is not us. Even if it looks like us, that is a person who is trying to leverage the trust we have built on this platform to take your money. Do not respond to them. No legitimate creator will ever reach out to you directly like that. You have got to get in touch with us. You know how to find us through these profiles wherever you're watching the show. If you want to find Chuck, he's at 0x Chuckstock on X, and we can help put you in touch with him too. Stay safe out there, my friends. Yeah. And Chuck, thanks, brother, one more time.
Yeah. And Evan, that does remind me though of a funny saying I think of every single time I see like scammers go through. You know, a lot of the times it will be like some beautiful woman who will be reaching out in like a bikini or something. And one of my favorite things was, gentlemen, do not trust that man dressed up as a woman in a bikini in her profile picture. It's like, do not trust that man. And so whenever I see it, I'm like, do not trust that man. Like,
I don't know, man. Anyway. I see that beautiful woman coming and I say,
so you're telling me there's a chance?
You know, it could be a man, but it might not be.
Chance.
My seed phrase is.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we got to go. Thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. Everybody, find us in the Discord. Until then, stay safe. Be well. Everybody, rise up.